Macho John Madden broadcasting from Veracruz, Mexico, the port of Veracruz. This is the harbor in Veracruz. This is the Muelle, the Naval Base and Museum. This is the bay in which I've been swimming every day. Now this seems like an ironic location setting to do a video about George Floyd being killed in Minneapolis. 4 years ago when that happened, I was in Burnsville, North Carolina, which is an hour north of Asheville, which is kind of a progressive hub in the southeast. Very progressive town in very red county in Appalachia, which was at that time, well, still is, all Trump. But I discovered when I left Asheville in March of 2020 that the people of Appalachia were great, and I became very much enamored of that whole part of the country, the high mountains of western North Carolina, and the people of Appalachia. So I was around Burnsville when George Floyd was killed, and I just made a video about the Burnsville chapter of my response to George Floyd 4 years ago. Got up to Wednesday of that week. On Thursday of the week of all the demonstrations around the country about George Floyd, I did get some gas money from somebody, and I was able to drive my camper van and my little Chihuahua down to Asheville to take part in the demonstrations there. Now, there had been a lot of controversy about the demonstrations on Wednesday night. I think it maybe made the national news that the police, the Asheville police, who overall were really serve and protect, they knew that their clientele was a very progressive town. For some crazy reason, they did a surgical strike on the medic operation of the big protest and wiped out all their supplies. And I knew just a little bit Esther Mannheimer, the mayor of Asheville, and I knew her dad, Ron, more. And they were really progressive people, and she was very shocked and upset. There was some kind of investigation to see who issued that order. So this was the next night, and I went down for the protest and got there late. And when I arrived at the park where the protests were happening, at that same medic station, they said, well, because of all the troubles down here last night, the Black Lives Matter people have decided to honor the curfew tonight. So it's over. There is no more protests. And I said, well, I haven't protested yet. I'm gonna march somewhere. Me and my Chihuahua are gonna have our own little protest. We've been doing it up in Burnsville every day. Now we're in Asheville, and the people there said, there is a curfew in effect. You will get arrested if you go any further. So I was getting ready to honor that. But my Chihuahua wasn't happy with that. My Chihuahua, Panchita, never was on a leash pretty much. She was so well behaved. In my 16 years in Asheville, 3 of them with her, she would walk trailing her leash. And if somebody griped, I'd say, look, she's on a leash. You're not holding it. Do you point out some reason why I ought to be holding it? Is she running out of control? Is she biting people? So at that point, I don't think we had been in the country for a couple months and she didn't wear leashes at all. But she wanted to go forward. And I trusted her instinct in so many situations. She'd say, don't go this way, it's not good, and I'd trust her. So when on that Thursday night she said, I think we ought to go further, Dad, let's go downtown. So there was a young woman European filmmaker who said, well, I want to go with you. I want to videotape this and see what goes on. So I said, great. And light rain started to fall, and before we moved to the country, my little citified Chihuahua hated rain, but she had gotten tough by that point. She ignored the rain and she plodded onwards. Well, long story short, we never got arrested or had any trouble with police at all. Where she took us that night was back to our building. Just 3 months earlier, I had left my subsidized senior apartment building, Battery Park Apartments, kind of a legendary spot. It had been one of the great hotels of the South. Yeah, she went right up the stairs, right to the door, And I went, oh, let's see that kite back there? That's such a beautiful bird. She still wanted home. She had not yet accepted the fact that our camper van was our home and that we had this new peripatetic lifestyle. She wanted home. I cried. A couple months later when we went by there, she just walked right by it. She had no interest in going in that building anymore. But that night, yeah, my baby wanted to go home. Okay.